welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children. I'm Dan Wendelin, your host and storyteller. Tonight's story is a continuation of the ongoing story of Myra and the Online School for Adventuring. If you're a first-time listener to Stories for Wonderful Children, I recommend you back up and start at the beginning of this story. Welcome back to all my returning listeners, and I hope you enjoy this evening's story of Myra having a little chat with her sister Kisa. It was kind of strange going back to class after spending the weekend traveling to the Temple of the Fates. Bizarre to return to the everyday routines of homework and classwork after receiving hints that they were right and that somehow the school and the string demon and the forest were all wrapped up together with the mystery of the missing fates. As she headed to sneaker class, Myra pondered maybe just asking Professor Tad, but somehow she didn't think that was very sneakerly. She felt like she was going to try to get information. She needed to be more subtle about it, almost as like a professional courtesy or something. Just coming out and asking would have seemed not right somehow. So, when she arrived at sneaker class, Antoine and Chelsea were already there, and Professor Tad was leading them down to the practice dungeon. Myra, remembering Tweety's dream, vowed that she was going to keep her eyes open for anything that looked like a pair of magical shears, but she really didn't have any idea even where to begin looking. But you never knew. Maybe they would just pop up in the practice dungeon. Seemed unlikely, but the practice dungeon was rather a disappointment as far as finding magical scissors, though. They spent the entire time studying tripwires, the different ways you can disguise tripwires, and the ways you can hook them onto doors or to objects, and how to check for tripwires, and how to figure out where they ran to and what they were going to trigger, and ways to cut them if you had to cut them without triggering them. It was all good stuff, and she was sure she would find it very useful, but none of it answered the question that was really uppermost in her mind, and she was distracted thinking about the fates and their shears. And so she once messed up while she was snipping a tripwire, and she didn't secure it properly, and so it triggered, and a giant block of very lightweight foam fell on her, which Professor Tad felt necessary to point out to her that if that had been a giant stone, she would be squished into a very flat Myra pancake, and that she needed to pay more attention to what she was doing. She felt properly chastised, and it sort of put her in a bad mood for the rest of the class, although she was much more careful. However, her bad mood made it a really unfortunate time for Gorrin to catch up with her after class and say, "Hey, Myra." "Hey, Gorrin," she said. "I was thinking," he said, we've never gone out on like a really official date, and I was wondering if you would like to sometime, maybe?" And Myra looked at him and said, "I don't think so." Oh, said Gorrin. "No, wait," said Myra. "It's not that I don't want to go out on a date with you. That sort of sounds fun. I like you. I think you're very nice. I sort of feel like the weight of the world is riding on my shoulders at the moment, with all this string demon stuff, and I don't want to think about it. It's just too much right now, okay?" "Okay," said Gorrin. "So then, what you're saying is that once we've saved the world, you'll go out on a date with me?" Myra sighed just a little bit. "Yes, Gorrin," she said. "If we manage to save the world, I would be very pleased to go out on a date with you." "Excellent," he said. "So, now we just have to save the world." "Yeah," said Myra. Glad we settled that, so now the hard part's over, right?" "Absolutely," said Gorrin, and went prancing off, which is not something she had ever seen him do before, but it was just close to a skip. She rolled her eyes a little bit. Boys. She headed to the cafeteria, was happy to see that Kisa was there. She had not gotten any time alone with Kisa since before the weekend, and so she took the opportunity to fill her in on everything that had happened. "So," said Myra when she was finished, "you have any idea where to find magical shears?" "I don't," said Kisa, "but I mean, if you want to find a magical object, shouldn't you go talk to the magicers?" "Well," said Myra, "yeah, but I don't really know any of them." "Well, you didn't know any of the zealots either before you met Hetty, right? Just, look around and meet some of them." "I don't think any of the students here are likely to know anything about a pair of magical shears. I mean, wherever they went, I doubt anybody realizes what they actually are, "Right," said Kisa. "Well, maybe you should go into town, into the shop where the magicers all shop for their school supplies." "Wait," said Myra. "They don't use the bookstore like everyone else?" "No," said Kisa. The bookstore deals in a lot of things, but some of the stuff that the upper level magicer students get into, it starts to get a little weird, more than the bookshop feels comfortable stocking. So, no, there's a shop in town that most of them go to. And, it's a shop that claims it has everything." "So, great," said Myra. "Maybe I just need to go there and tell them I need a pair of magic shears that used to be owned by the Fates, and I can put it on my credit card. Or actually," she said, "I do have a couple lumps of gold. Did I tell you about that?" "No," said Kisa. "Where did you get lumps of gold?" "Oh," said Myra, "actually, I'm not going to tell you about that. Never mind."
Wait, when did she get the lumps of gold?
From Tweety, bro.
No, those were diamonds.
Were they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, back
That's
up.
why I was confused.
Me too. Well, I'm clearly also confused. Diamonds makes a lot more sense, actually, than lumps of gold. So, yes, diamonds. Actually, said Myra, I do have some very high-quality diamonds. And Kisa was very surprised, and Myra refused to tell her where. "Okay," said Myra. "Well, I have flying class this afternoon. At least I think I do, if they're still letting me fly. But maybe after flying class I can head into town. Where do you find this shop?" "Well, I've never been there," said Kisa, "but I do have a friend who's a magiccer. Why don't I ask him to show you where it is?" "Great," said Myra. "Just ask him to meet me at the stables after flying lessons."
I have a question.
"Yeah."
Why has Myra been put on the no-fly list?
"That's a good question. She doesn't know why she got put on the no-fly list."
Because the secretary of the school has a big secret that he was the one who created the string bean because he attacked the Fates trying to make himself immortal, and so he built the school to try to keep it under wraps, and he knows that Myra is getting close to figuring it out, so he is trying to limit her access to the forest.
No.
Or at least that's my theory.
Yes, this is Katie's theory.
Now, where'd you get that, girly?
This is Katie's theory.
I
This is
must have been so asleep.
This has not been stated. She's not making it up out of thin air. I mean,
Right.
I would say that she could definitely find support in the stories for that theory. But anyway, so Myra headed off back to her dorm, actually, and picked up the diamonds before she headed to flying class, where she was pleased to discover that she was allowed to fly. She just wasn't allowed to fly off of campus. So she had a lovely little flight with Brightwing all around campus, and afterwards she came into land and she took the saddle off of Brightwing and then brushed him down, and when she stepped out of the stables she saw a man standing there wearing magiccer student robes. He said, "Hey, you're Kisa's little sister?" "Well, I prefer to think of Kisa as my big sister," said Myra, "but yeah." "Great," he said. "My name's Gorrin." She said, "You wanted to find the magic shop?"
His name is Gorrin?
"Yeah." "Is that a problem?"
Gorrin and Gorrin.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Okay, I need a different name.
Yeah. It was like
I'm terrible at making up names.
Myra and Gorrin and Kisa and Gorrin. Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin.
Kevin? Okay, fine. He said my name is Kevin. Great, said Myra. Lead on. And she followed him towards town. And I will tell you about her escapade in the magic shop with Kevin tomorrow night. Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's show, but questions and running commentary were supplied by my children. The theme music was created by Brandon Thompson, and our wonderful logo was designed by Silas Swindelin. If you know someone who might enjoy the show, please tell them about it. Do you want more stories? You can now subscribe to the show and help pick a new story for me to tell every month. The show's website is storiesforwonderfulchildren.com. Until next time, I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.